Hi, welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Mace coming to you from Vancouver Island, beautiful British Columbia here in Canada. And today's video, why every map has this tiny Australian town. Let's check it in, check it out, get that in ya. Let's go.
There's an interesting phenomenon that you can easily test out on any labeled map. And for some reason,
Okay, so it's like a cartography phenomenon.
been thinking about it a lot recently, and that is the reverse Baltimore phenomenon. First, the Baltimore phenomenon is where
What is that?
prominent places get left off a map because there isn't enough space to label them. I'll show you what I mean. This is Baltimore in the US.
Right, this is an interesting topic. I've always thought about this, how for map makers, cartographers, they have to pick and choose which cities to include on maps because it's just the size of the text. They only have a finite amount of space, right?
Yes. It's the largest city in the state of Maryland and has a population of over 500,000 people in the city and 2.8 million people.
Baltimore is also the setting for the highly acclaimed HBO drama. What's the title of it? Oh my god. You guys, what's the title of it? Jesus Christ. Let's just continue the video. I'll get it.
Including the surrounding metropolitan area. But just next door is the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C. So if we zoom in on a map...
Oh my god, this is going to bug me too much. The Wire. The Wire. Okay, we can continue on. Everything's good. We can continue the video.
the area, we can see them sitting happily side by side. But when we zoom out, which of the two do you think is going to be labeled? Of course,
Washington.
It's the capital city. You can see that as we zoom the map out, the labels on the map, the actual word that says Washington needs to
Baltimore got erased.
be big enough to read. So it covers more land and the Baltimore label gets left off. Washington is a capital and also a bit bigger than Baltimore, but there are other examples of the Baltimore effect around the globe as well. Here's
Baltimore
Guangzhou in
phenomenon.
China.
Okay.
Over 14.2 million people live in its urban area. And right down the road is Hong Kong, home to 7.4 million people. If we zoom out
Hong
again,
Kong's got to be
we
there.
can see another great example of the Baltimore effect, with Guangzhou's label being jettisoned in favor of Hong Kong's. This phenomenon is called cartographic generalization, and it's actually the reverse of this
Cartographic
phenomenon that I've been thinking a lot
generalization.
about recently, but I'll get to that in just a moment. Generalization happens when you go from a large scale to a small scale map. In other words, from zoomed in to zoomed out. It wouldn't make sense to try and label every tiny village and river and hill on a small scale map, because then it would be unreadable and unusable. So people who design physical maps and the algorithms for digital ones have to decide which labels to lose when going from zoomed in to zoomed out. And usually they decide to keep the most significant labels: capital cities, big cities, country names, state names, etc. Generalization isn't a fault of maps. In fact, it's
It's a reality of the map. There's only so much space. So yeah, it's not a fault, I would say, or they're not picking on any place. It's just you do the best that you can do with the cards that you're dealt, if you're a cartographer, I guess, or the person making the code for the algorithm for Google Maps or whatever.
maps. In fact, it's on purpose. And it doesn't just refer to what happens with the labels, it's also how maps smooth out
Geelong.
coastlines or blur together forests to make them easier to depict at a small scale. But for
So okay, I'm interested to see how all of this ties together with this tiny Australian town.
labels, cartographic generalization works both ways. Sometimes an area is densely populated, so there are some large cities that get left off the map, and sometimes an area is so sparsely populated that small towns get labeled, even when huge cities elsewhere don't. And this is what I've been thinking about. All those small towns that are almost always labeled on small scale maps. Here's an example. This is Alice Springs in Australia. For reference, this map doesn't label Guangzhou, a city of 14 million people.
When we're done this video, I should pull up Google Maps and we'll take a look at my neck of the woods and see how the cartographic generalization plays out in my stomping grounds.
So how big do you think Alice Springs is?
There's Alice Springs. How many people are in this town? Look at that. all the way zoomed out and it's visible.
This. Well, it has a population of 25,000.
Okay.
But the fact
Nothing
that
to
it's
scoff
right
at.
bang in the middle of the continent, only surrounded by even smaller towns and communities, means that it gets labeled on many, 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 many maps. Here's my old family atlas that has a map showing Alice Springs, and this one does label Guangzhou, but many other cities that are massively larger than Alice Springs are missing. Bandung, Indonesia, Nagoya, Japan, Amman, Jordan, Beirut, Lebanon, Marseille, France, Amsterdam, Netherlands, Manchester, UK, and, of course, Baltimore, Maryland. You can easily try this out for yourself. Look at any map or atlas you find, or just zoom Google Maps until you can just see Alice Springs, right in the center of Australia, and then look around to see what you can and can't find. You can find huge cities missing because of the Baltimore phenomenon, and you can see tiny towns that you might not normally focus on, a kind of reverse Baltimore effect. And Alice.
Surely there's other, like, I guess it just got named after the Baltimore phenomenon because that's the first one that they discovered. That made sense, but there's a lot of other towns. That's just a good descriptor for what it is, I guess. Anchorage, Alaska, Dillium.
Springs phenomenon. Anyway, thanks for watching me ramble about cartographic generalization. I'll see you next time.
That was an incredibly densely packed amount of information in a very, very short amount of time. It was really, really concise. I think that was a great video. Very concise, straight to the point. Nothing, no superfluous information at all. It's good stuff. All right, let's do this. So we pull up maps. Google Maps. Let's see. So we zoom way out. Whoa. So, like, this is interesting. So at this point, it's basically just labeling Vancouver Island. Nanaimo gets on there. Victoria gets on there. Port Hardy gets on there. Port McNeill gets on there. Vancouver, you zoom in one level. Then we've added some towns. We've added... I'm just looking at Vancouver Island specifically here. So we've added Ucluelet, Tofino, and... Wait. Okay, so Victoria is on there. Okay, that one, nope. Victoria would be the largest city on Vancouver Island. Like Canberra River, there's bigger cities in between Canberra River and Nanaimo that are left off of the map because of the Baltimore phenomenon. Now I know that. However, look how many places they list on the northern part of the island. We have Port McNeill, Port Hardy. They leave off Port Alice. There's be too many ports in there. Holberg is added, like Winter Harbor, San Jose Bay, which is not even a town. That's just like a place. You get places like Rivers Inlet, Bella Bella, incredibly tiny communities. So we go in one more level, and then we start getting some of the pieces from in between. Oyster River, tiny community. It's not even a town. It's like a unincorporated village. Comox, a little bit bigger but small. Cumberland, and this area, Comox, Cumberland, is called the Comox Valley. You move down the island, you get Qualicum Beach, Parksville, and vice versa for Vancouver, Surrey. One more in, and you start getting almost nearly every town at this point on the island. So, how do you explore these layers here? There you go. I am here somewhere. All right, see you guys on the next one. That was fun.